Welcome to the USL Game of the Week in Zions Bank Stadium. What an incredible locale aside the Rocky Mountains in Harriman, Utah. Few places have offered a better home field advantage in the United Soccer League over these last couple of years, and in this new stadium's inaugural season, it continues with the Monarchs set to take on the 9th place St. Louis FC. Joined by Devin Kerr, Mike Watts alongside. We take a look at the Western Conference standings and why this game means so much coming down the stretch. For Real Monarchs, 3 straight losses have them trailing Orange County with a game in hand. A win moved them 2 points clear back atop the West, while St. Louis FC sits 3 points away from 7th place. If they get a win here tonight on the road, you could argue house money and a great chance to make their run towards a playoff push. Devin, when you look at Real Monarchs, 3 consecutive losses is shocking for a lot of reasons, including the fact one of them came here.
Not only 3 in a row, but 4 out of the last 6. They had not dropped points outside of the San Antonio game, except for back on April 30th in a 0-0 draw versus Las Vegas. And it just hasn't been bad defensively. It's been bad from set-piece opportunities for the opposing squad. Giving up 4 goals past 2 games, 3 of which coming from the spot, and you can see all over the pitch, just uncoordinated, not enough communication. They got to find a way to lock it up.
St. Louis has been playing a lot better, and as you look at their schedule the rest of the way, there's some 6-point games, some games they're supposed to win. There's a route for them to make a playoff push.
If you're Anthony Pulis, though, you're looking down this stretch, and it is not the one that you would like to be facing a boatload of teams with a lot of talent. But since their 2-1 shocking victory at Reno to knock them off that 16-game unbeaten streak, they've gone 6-2-1, and 4 of those wins have come against teams above the playoff line.
And they're finally getting healthy, too. For Real Monarchs and St. Louis, we can look at their central midfield and see how they operate. For the Monarchs, Justin Portillo.
This had to be the guy, didn't it? The one who pulls all the strings. He is the puppeteer for the Real Monarchs. He pushes everybody in the appropriate direction at any given moment. If you didn't have the chance to see him last year at the Battery, you're going to see his talents on full display tonight. He has been amazing. He would like to get alongside his striking partner Velasquez, but he's going to have a formidable foe on the other side of the pitch. The Englishman Lewis Hilton has been an absolute fire for St. Louis Football Club. He is the one who gets the job done for Anthony Pulis. All these guys look to him on a regular basis. Former standout at Young Harris has made his home here. Excellent in transition. Not exactly the biggest numbers from a metric standpoint, but he leads by example, constantly looking for him for guidance. He gets it done, and the boys know it.
He's the perfect Pulis proxy for St. Louis Football Club in central midfield. So tonight means a lot for Real Monarchs. Their dominance is in question. 10 straight wins at Zions Bank in the rearview mirror now. 3 straight defeats. For St. Louis, playoff hopes are blossoming. Tonight might feel like house money, but 3 points go a long way. St. Louis, Real Monarchs are next. Real Monarchs and St. Louis FC in the USL Game of the Week, the number 2 team and the number 9 team in the Western Conference. Devin Kerr, let's take a look at the starting lineups and 2 teams that go divergent paths. Real Monarchs, a decent number of changes.
Don't be surprised if you see Portillo and Hernandez tucking behind Charlie Adams, but they have to get their big guy up top, Chandler Hoffman, going early. Chang on the right has been instrumental in their success offensively. On the other side of the ball, St. Louis, their big guy, Kyle Gregg, 12 goals on the year. His manager, Anthony Pulis, says that when he is at his best, he might be the best striker in the USL. That is a bold statement, but he has to be confident. Really struggled mid-year, has found form of late, finding the back on a regular basis.
Fanuel Kavita, former RSL homegrown, and, well, Calistri, the only change for St. Louis FC. Mascots are out. There's academy players, fans making their way into Harriman, Utah, and this gorgeous new home for the Monarchs. It's the white, green, and blue of St. Louis. It's the cobalt claret of Real Monarchs. We're underway from Harriman, Utah in the USL Game of the Week. St. Louis and Salt Lake City. Comes back and pushed ahead by Tomas Gomez. Pushed up the far side. This will find Wallfall, who's really impressed. That's coming over from Rochester Rhinos.
You're okay there, Tom. You're all right where you are.
There's James Moberg throwing in. Devin, you look at the Monarchs in these last 3 games uncharacteristic, and we spoke with interim head coach Hamison Alave, who took over under unfortunate circumstances. Mark Briggs accused of assault and was eventually cleared.
Sam across!
Decided to make a move once he was cleared, and Hamison Alave, the interim for the rest of the season. They don't feel like they should have lost these last 3 games. It was just those little mistakes that came back to bite them.
That's why I said it's not just defensively, because they've been pretty decent throughout the games. They've dictated their own terms. They've had the tempo in their side of things start to finish, but they just haven't been able to tidy up as we've seen them in the past. Those inconsistencies is not something that is consistent with this organization. And he's really excited about being back home at Zions Bank. They want that number 1 seed. They're going to come out and show it.
Ball comes out to Josh Hurd. Flag is up for offside against Chandler Hoffman, who wears the captain's armband. So there's Josh Hurd. And this Real Monarchs side, Hurd coming over from Bethlehem Steel these last few years.
Second ball! Get him inside!
It's going to be interesting, this combination going forward, because Anthony Pulis had toyed with a 3-back system for a while, rotating Sam Fink, Fanuel Kavita, Culbertson, and a couple other usual suspects in and out, but they've rotated back into the 4. He's happy with it. And when they get the attackers of Josh Hurd, Michael Chang, Chandler Hoffman, Charlie Adams coming up through the middle, all of them are going to have to be in constant communication. A lot of shifting going on. They're going to be passing players zonally, so constantly keeping tabs what's over your shoulder. Quick looks here and there. Real Monarchs like to hold the ball and put a boatload of passes together, but they can counter with the best of them.
Brody and Hurd unable to combine there. And 3 minutes in, it's with St. Louis. Away from Kyle Gregg, who's up to 12 goals on the season. And knocked aside by Kavita for Sam Fink. Kavita, homegrown for Real Salt Lake in 2015. Played 38 games for the Monarchs.
Get up!
Aimed for Calistri. Now Plua drives it away. Say he's been the bright spot offensively the last few games. Probably isn't too high a compliment for Real Monarchs, but he's been great on set pieces, Plua.
Don't tell him that. He's been very impressive. Not the guy that you expect to get forward and get up there, but does carry that big stature.
Ball deflects away from Beekwa, and a corner for St. Louis. This is where a guy like Plua, he doesn't lose headed balls inside the area. He is a real defensive weapon on these set pieces, despite the recent struggles against the set piece for the Monarchs.
Where's Kadeem going? Kadeem! Enter the box!
Well, Culbertson ready to line this up. And drive it to the post. Header is up and over. Wall fall goes streaking through. And it pops over the top. Good early opportunity for St. Louis.
Almost immediately, St. Louis able to get out on the front foot and really exploit the woes that have been the counterattacks and then the set pieces from the opposition to the Real Monarchs. Good ball to the near post. Plua just tracking with holding midfielder Wall fall. You'll see him get involved in the set piece opportunities as well. Guy can strike a great dead ball.
Ball sliced across to Hurd. Options flowing forward for the Monarchs. Brody driving a service through. This will deflect wide of Michael Chang. And it's a bit of a foot race here. Kalen Ryden trying to get back. Ball will fall here for Deekwa, who goes down, and a penalty. St. Louis will have a chance on the road to take a lead, just as the Monarchs did in St. Louis earlier this year. It's a yellow card to Plua as well.
This is a dreadful start for Conrad Plua. Missed the run on the near post earlier to Wall fall. Tracking back here on the counterattack. And the two boys actually thought that Kadeem Dakers was offside. They go in transition. Here's the ball in behind Kalen Ryden, takes the deflection, and it's right here. No, he's even. He's in behind. Perfect positioning. And then the trailing run by Plua, uncharacteristically giving up a terrible opportunity to the visitors in the early moments of this game to grab this momentum.
Well, the problem for the Monarchs here isn't the penalty, because actually they are phenomenal stopping penalties. No, St. Louis, a chance here to make something of this despite a painful fall. If you're St. Louis, you think back to the first time these teams met this year, and even Hamas and Olave will make it pretty clear. They felt like St. Louis pumped a lot of balls in, made it very difficult, and yeah, they got a penalty in the first 20 minutes, but that was hardly the game.
Gifted an opportunity in that penalty as well. Both managers felt like St. Louis probably should have come out of there with 3 points. They were the better squad. But as we've seen Real Monarchs in the past, they'll take it any way they can get it. That was a stretch of games for Anthony Pujols and his boys where, you know, he really felt like Lady Luck wasn't on their side. Some questionable refereeing. He was not happy in those situations, but they continued to fight on, and they really have progressed quite nicely over the latter portion of this season. The second half has been much better. And to be fair, they dealt with a massive amount of injuries. Guys constantly coming in and out. Kadeem Dakers was one of them. He had a dislocated shoulder about mid-season.
Wall fall, 4 goals on the year. Jake Leaker on his line. Wall fall. Leaker makes another save. Fall is there. He'll put it in. It was nearly that story again for the Monarchs, but Wall fall cleans up his own mess, and it's 1-0 to the roadside.
Jake Leaker is absolutely furious because there's no follow-up. He gets no support from his squad. Great save by the former Scott Gallagher standout at the youth level. Jake Leaker guesses correctly, goes to his left. Wallfall puts it low, not enough pace, and the deflection just comes back across his body. The German follows it up and puts his squad out early.
Well, well, well.
Yep, go on, Dickwa.
Devin, I think at the start of this night, we're looking at each other going, if St. Louis finds a way to win at the Monarchs, given that they're on, well, high alert, 3 straight losses, that would be some kind of upset. And, yeah, we've got 80 minutes to go, and the Monarchs have trailed and come back to win quite a bit. But for a team that plays in such a compact block, this is St. Louis's pipe dream.
That's the biggest issue for Real Monarchs now, because they really like to grab a stranglehold on these games in the center of the park and try and challenge teams, and that's not the case with St. Louis. You really have to try and push numbers down into the channels, which then doesn't bode well for you, especially when they have the lead. Kadeem Dakers, Joey Kalishri do such a good job playing the two-way game. Kyle Culbertson, Tony Walls, when they are healthy, which they are right now, can defend with the best of them. Good stuff for Anthony Pulis and his boys early on.
Culbertson and Hilton lined up behind the ball. This played toward Leaker. It'll fly by.
Switch on.
I'm almost worried I read the stats wrong. I think that's 6 penalty saves for Leaker this year. If the stats I read are right, that is some kind of form for a guy that came out of Memphis with a losing record, a St. Louis native playing against his hometown club, and one that this Real Salt Lake organization really likes.
Don't foul, don't foul. No foul there.
He's gotten an early representation why, but he should have gotten some help from his team. It was a great penalty save, and again, just comes back across his body. You can see some frustration coming out as well here. Kyle Gregg coming through the middle, comes in behind. Some solid communication between the 4th official and our managers this evening.
What that is?
That's communication. It's solid. It's maybe not appropriate, but it's solid.
Get around him!
So Portillo dropping back to defend here, and this ball finding the far side. Dakers trying to cut it across. And this will deflect out for a corner, and St. Louis's hot start continues. Dequa falls. Both guys that can find their way into the middle. Vertical line of 4 for Hilton to try and hit here, and plays it short. Dakers back out. And the service wound across.
Stay there, Kyle. Joey, stay there.
Speared upfield by Kavita. Tony Walls. Walls taking on and nearly getting by Hurd.
Lewis,
Help defense flows over.
Joey, stay inside. Drop inside, Joe. Shape! Fan, slide inside. See the ball now.
Good look defensively on the left side for Real Monarchs. Josh Hurd had stepped back. Andrew Brody came over. And the two of those guys challenging one-on-one. Andrew Brody not afraid to get up high in the pitch.
Wall fall going back. And it's with the Monarchs here, and Kalen Ryden. Brody for Hurd.
All the way, good, well done. Slide left, equal up. Stay in, Josh, stay in.
He's very patient right now. for the Monarchs.
If you're St. Louis, you have no problem playing this game, though. There's no movement by Real Monarchs whatsoever. Everybody very stagnant in the middle of the field. They'll let them go left and right all day long.
Hurd able to make a nice turn. Got Tony Walls out of sorts. Hurd cutting inside, laying it off. Shot is on and deflects straight back. Seemingly out of absolutely nothing.
That's their bread and butter, though. Not necessarily in such tight quarters, but they will want to move the ball right on the touchline, get it down to the byline, and then move things right back to the top of the box in the trailing runs.
Moberg header from Hurd, couldn't steer it toward the frame.
Stay high, stay high.
There's Tomas Gomez. It's about time that you pick a #1 goalkeeper, and a good performance could go a long way for Gomez tonight.
Hurt earlier on this season, Fennelson stepping in, and their manager, Anthony Pula, said that he did such a good job for us, had to give him credit. Tomas comes in right around the start of U.S. Open Cup. They bounce back and forth. He gets his match fitness back. He becomes the #1, falls out of favor a bit because of some very unsuspecting moves that he made in certain matches. So he gives Fennelson another look. Things go well for him, and then it's been back and forth. But the teetering and tottering has to stop. The manager admits it. He knows that he needs to go one. It looks like it's going to be Gomez for now. And to be fair, you would think it would be him looking at the roster at the beginning of the season. They went on, got him from Rochester. Golden Gloves behind him. I mean, the guy's got a boatload of talent.
Service for Hernandez cut out by Fink and intercepted by Chang. Chang reversing, Hernandez cutting toward the byline, and Fink arrives, knocks it out for a throw. Yeah, Fennelson was brought in late because Gomez was injured with that hip, was out until May, and played well enough. He kept the shirt for quite a while. It's a good problem to have. Well, this looking a little more like the Monarchs we've come to know. Brody using the whole width of the field. Brody coming now. Adams. It's a three-man game. Hurd, Adams. And St. Louis will slice this away. Dequa won't get there. And Portillo takes over.
If you're St. Louis, you just want to remain intact, keep that composition we've referenced so many times before. Defending is their strong suit. And then you can go in transition if need be. They like to play the game that Real does. They want to hold the ball at their feet, try and get a lot of touches on the ball. That's going to be difficult to do tonight. So all you need to do, pick and choose your opportunities, be patient, get the early goal so far, and just bide your time.
Ball chipped forward for Chandler Hoffman, one of the league's all-time great goal scorers. A name we haven't heard nearly enough through 18 minutes for the Monarchs' liking. Brody, away from Hernandez, Calistri, and now Wall Fall, fouled from behind. Well, Devin, you think about where Real Monarchs are right now. They sit second in the Western Conference. They've lost 3 straight games. This year has been one marked by all kinds of difficulties around the organization as we take a look at the foul.
Second ball wall.
You think about these last couple of years and the head coaching changes they've made. Dakers sending service. Ball pop back over Dakers. He's in pursuit. Freddie Juarez was the coach 3 years ago. Then it was Mike Petke for all of a game. Ended up going to Real Salt Lake, where he's still the head coach. Mark Briggs, who's brought on as an assistant, becomes the head coach. There were allegations and charges that have since been dropped to Briggs. And it was 3 games ago that he resigned from the organization. Jamison Alave, who's been the interim head coach is given the interim tag for the remainder of the season. And it's just been very difficult for this team, despite Jamison Olave trying to keep things streamlined, keep things the way Mark Briggs largely had it on the field. It's been difficult to keep all the pieces together. And large in part, they've done a pretty good job with it all. It's just these last few games, they've seen some cracks in the facade.
I like the analogy that I used in our conversation with Jamison Olave, and not saying that patting myself on my own back, I just think it's a good representation of what's gone on here. It's really understanding that someone can be put in a situation to step in and continue to steer the ship in the right direction. But it's very difficult to hand someone the keys to a Ferrari and make sure that it's running well on a regular basis. And that's what he's done. He really has. This is an organization that has structured themselves to be consistent from any way, shape, and form at the academy level into the Real Salt Lake squad. And so for Jamison to step in and, for the most part, not really miss a beat, it's been beyond impressive. Now, will that continue into the postseason? They sure hope it does after last year's early exit to Sacramento Republic. But long-term, they look good so far. It'll be real interesting to see what goes on in the offseason, who steps in. Will they maintain Jamison at the top? Only time will tell, but they look pretty good.
You asked him, Dev, have you had any conversations about your future since the interim tag was officially applied to you through the rest of the year? And said nothing yet, hasn't talked to the front office at all about it. And that, well, time will tell whether or not he's part of this organization and in what capacity come the end of the season.
He definitely carries that player's mentality where it's not necessarily something he can't control their thought process, except for the fact that he has to handle his own performance. Go out, get the job done, show that what he's capable of and what he can do with the guys. And he's proven that so far. Again, a little stumble, but a good opportunity for them tonight to get back on track and try and push themselves with some positive momentum into the postseason.
Olave won MLS Cup with Real Salt Lake. He won the Supporters Shield with New York Red Bulls, a native of Cali, Colombia. Played with Deportivo Cali, one of the big clubs in Colombia before coming to Major League Soccer. This is Brody. Adams. Hernandez backing away. And this service has Hoffman stumbling. Dequa, well, hasn't been able to find much service. It's largely been clearances aimed his way. Hernandez splits the midfield in the defense, hits up the right side. Chang, Hoffman is there! Goes by Gomez and out. A goal kick.
Picture-perfect transition from the Real Monarchs. It starts with the step by the center back, Kalen Ryden. Then you get this ball sprayed to the outside by Hernandez. Chang doing what he does every single time. One-on-one, explosion to the byline, cuts it back. Chandler Hoffman buries those on a regular basis. You expect more from number 49.
We were asking him. He was sitting on 49 goals, 2 goals this year. He's the first signing for Birmingham Legion, who will join USL next year. A Birmingham native. What kind of pressure was on him, right, to score that 50th? And, well, number 49 certainly felt the weight of the number, both on his jersey and on his mind. It does seem like he's figured things out, and he's scored about 10 goals since that time, and it's really picked up these last few months, which is a good sign. When he gets in good form, very few can match what he does in USL.
Go on then! Go! All the way! All the way! Screen the inside, Joey!
Adams going along, looking for Hoffman, trying to stretch the field. Calistri trying to work there with Tony Walls.
The right idea, well done. Well done, Joe. Next one, Tom. Sam, fan, shoulders. Shake fan, come on, work. Good battle, Joe.
Brody playing to the back. Plua, whose early foul resulted in a St. Louis penalty, which was saved by Leaker. The rebound put in by Wall Fall in the first 10 minutes. Portillo wide. Chang for Hoffman. Fink arrives. Wrong side of Portillo. Here comes St. Louis.
The Monarchs are starting to figure it out, though. You can see sometimes it's just a ticking time bomb with them. You can sit back and really only hope to contain. Very rarely do they not find the back of the net. They do such a good job, though it hasn't been as good recently. You track back just a few games, they were able to slot 4 away. So not far that off has it been when they were in form. Just some tiny slips here and there.
Portillo impressed so much with Charleston Battery these last few years. All the way across to Brody, who slices it to the top of the 18. There's contact from behind. Hernandez continuing still. Dispossessed.
The fans are furious. You're going to get a real good look at it. Turn right at the top. That's close. It's very close. Chandler Hoffman goes to ground a little bit easier than the referee would like. He gets him on the turn. He wanted the tug by Sam Fink on the step, felt that his hands were wrapped around his waist and maybe used too much excessive force.
There is a hair of irony of Jamison Olave arguing for a penalty here, the former hulking center back. As Fink knocks this away from the onrushing Hernandez.
How many times have we seen him step in and just walk away from the situation? Just wasn't me.
I was asking him about Plua scoring in 2 games running off set pieces as a center back, and he says that's extra happiness. Your job is to keep goals off the board, but if you score, that's extra happiness. He scored 12 goals, Olave in Major League Soccer. Oh, nice ball through, but the flag is up against Dequa. And before that happened, there was a foul behind the play. So the referee will bring it all the way back to that point.
The referee was trying to play advantage. Dequa gets caught. Back line does a good job stepping up here to push him into an offside position. It's a good look at James Moberg on the right side. Good step by the California native, but unfortunately given up a foul just before.
That was Plua. Brought the contact. So a set piece here for St. Louis. Ball over the top was aimed at Greg. May have skimmed off his head, goes right to Leaker. Elsewhere in USL tonight, Galaxy 2 and OKC set to begin in moments. NFC, a 1-0 win over Indy 11. And that's a bit of a, you don't want to call it a shocker. Penn FC has had some pretty good performances this year on and off, but Indy 11, you probably thought you'd go find something there.
You expected it. Chatting about it yesterday, we saw Louisville has been up and down in form recently. They lose to FC Cincinnati. Indy 11 with a win would have gotten into the top 4. When was the last time you didn't see the boys in purple in the top 4? Now they're going to stay there now, but just the opportunity that could have been present there for Indy 11 to jump in front of them. I can't remember the last time.
It hasn't been in the last 2 years.
I was going to say, don't say the first game of the season.
No, they've been great the start of the last 2 years, Louisville City. This is a corner for Portillo. Real Monarchs, the reigning Western Conference champion last year. Driven across by Portillo. Comes out to Kali Street. And they haven't shied away from trying to find a second consecutive #1 seed either. Though the #1 seed has been a cursed commodity the last 2 years in USL in the West, while it's been the golden ticket in the East. Last 3 years running. On the ground for Hernandez. Adams. Room for Brody to serve. Culbertson gets up to it. Moberg for Chang. Chang puts a lot of air under this. Shot is on and held by Gomez. Josh Hurd dove into it. It hung in the air forever. In the end, Gomez gets down to make the stop.
Hurd puts himself right where he wants to be. Great ball coming from the right side. But he's got to get more power behind this. You do have to give credit to Tony Walls on the right. Kalistri had stepped in support as well. He does get a little tug on him. It's good ball movement from the Monarchs, and we've seen that all too often over the past 15 minutes. St. Louis needs to try and counterpunch here. They've worked themselves into defensive third and have pretty much been on the back foot, letting Real Monarchs dictate exactly what they want to do. Nothing fully threatening from them yet, but they are definitely knocking on the door.
It's caught between the feet a little bit. It is with the Monarchs here. Select is the official soccer ball of the USL. For the latest Select products and special offers, visit selectsportamerica.com to receive free shipping on orders of $50 or more. Attack is on through Brody. Brody sending it across. Bounds out to Kalistri. Skips to Hurd. An injured player down. This will be a foul against Dikwa.
30 seconds to call a foul for us. 30 seconds. Dikwa, get up, come on.
It's a good shout from the manager, Amazon Olave. Dikwa tracking back.
Hey, ref.
And the head coach not happy that it took him so long to blow the whistle for his boys. Joey Kalistri voices his opinion and is rightfully so booked. He'll get a yellow card for his efforts.
For what it's worth, no player on either side is in the yellow card accumulation warning segment of the disciplinary report this week.
Well, who wants to watch the rest of the game then?
I know. Jonathan Barden's at home like, yeah, if I get one, I'm out next week.
Just wait for it, boys.
He's still waiting to return. He's one of the few St. Louis guys that hasn't finally gotten healthy. There was a time for St. Louis early this year where Leaker drives this into the stands. If Anthony Pulis wanted to make an attacking substitution, he needed to use a defender to do it.
Or throw himself in.
Yeah.
Sign himself to a one-day, get himself into the squad. I mean, it was ridiculous, and it wasn't just one player that's integral to this team at one point in time. Tony Walls was out. We mentioned Kadeem Dakers with the dislocated shoulder. Albert Dikwa had his hamstring. Corey Herzog and his ankle issues. So you got a lot of guys that are easily in the starting 11, 3-4 at a time, not even able to make it into the 18 or the 23. And, you know, again, it's just a testament to what Anthony Pulis is capable of doing, and he was patient. He rode the ups and downs. He was able to come out on the positive side and at least give themselves an opportunity to get into the postseason, having never had one here, and real good positioning to do so. Rough road ahead of them, but it looks like they're up to the task.
You know, I was thinking, as you mentioned that, Anthony Pulis is an attacking sub. He can probably still throw some boots on and be relevant. I think around the league, if there's anyone I would throw into a game, it's probably Robert Earnshaw from Fresno. I think he could probably still play some game. But Jimmy Nielsen's about to be in Hartford. I'd pay money to watch him play goalkeeper.
Oh, he's golden. Yeah, he's my first choice.
Olave could certainly still play some center back, I think. There's some athletes on the sideline. Little layoff to Greg, and Portillo slides in and grabs the ball with it. Chang, delicate through ball, out to get it is Gomez, right on the edge of the penalty area. Ignacio on his back. There was a great off the from the pitch rather story about that relationship he has with his family. Certainly worth your time. The USL's official Twitter feed keeps you up to date. News, live game updates, and highlights from around the league 24/7. And follow at USL on Twitter. See the highlight of this one. Penalty in the 9th minute by Wall Fall, is 5th of the season. And St. Louis FC on the road against the #2 team in the West, a 1-0 advantage. By the way, to backtrack, if there's one guy I really want to see get in the game, it's El Chalice. I have no idea how that's going to go.
Where is he? He's playing he's the poaching 9 striker up top.
Yeah. Well, he drops out of the helicopter with all the cash. Nice run upfield here from Moberg. The ball sliced across for Hernandez. He can get a sidestep to that. It's out for a goal kick. What did you say? Get to the chopper?
Get to the chopper.
Yeah.
We had to get the Arnold reference in there.
Yes.
Surprised Hernandez doesn't get a deflection off this one. Again, St. Louis turns it over. They are so impressive when they go in transition. I mean, we know they can knock the ball around the field, and I don't want to understate how good that is and how difficult it is, but their ability to counter as well. It's probably understated. They probably don't get enough credit for it.
Well, the Monarchs trying to avoid what would be unfathomable, a 2nd consecutive home defeat. Last year at home, 12 wins, a loss, and 3 draws. This year, 1 loss, 1 draw, 12 wins, with 3 home games remaining. And their goal differential at home are remarkable, 31-11, including tonight's opening goal by St. Louis. It's simply unheard of to lose straight games, much less a game on its lonesome. The Monarchs at home. There's a foul here. A dangerous position. Wallfall still arguing his point.
It's a shout for his manager to Wall get out of the way, but Joseph Dickerson not having any of it. Anthony Punos trying to lobby for his holding midfielder. Fanuel Kavita drifts from the back line up to help out in the middle of the field. Just overstays his welcome.
Well, this is Portillo at his best, huh?
You are trembling in your boots right now if you're St. Louis. He is so dangerous standing over these set pieces. And they have so many weapons to use as well.
Portillo floats it off of Fink. Portillo went to Coastal Carolina. Needless to say, our thoughts with everybody in the path of Hurricane Florence. Could have an impact on sports, but a much bigger impact in the long term in the region. Ball slipped ahead. Gomez, not quite reckless, but knocks this all the way to the other end on the slide.
Little Ricardo Farino action?
Yeah, the sweeper keeper.
I like his step earlier when the through ball got played in and Chandler Hoffman was challenging because he had to time it just right. He comes out right to the edge of the box, and when he slides, he has to slow his own momentum so that when he does collect the ball, he doesn't come out over the 18.
Well, we saw Zach Steffen run into that problem yesterday with the U.S. national team.
Very, very, very lucky that he was not alone in that situation. That could have ended up much worse than it did. But he got a card for it and did a good job for him over the course of the rest of the match.
Well, there's a lot of pushing and shoving here. Moberg is livid.
What's happened? Fourth. What's happening with him tonight? What's happening with him? His performance. What the fuck's he playing at? So he gives us
For what it's worth, should note Zach Steffen did play in 2016 with Pittsburgh. He's a USL guy. So too Tyler Adams, who scored the goal. The 19-year-old played and won a USL Cup with New York Red Bulls in 2016. Another look at all this.
Now this starts with Kyle Gregg. Kyle Gregg is definitely in the wrong to start it. He picks the fight, but Moberg retaliates very inappropriately. He should end up in the book for this. Tyler Adams gets his first goal for the national team, and that was good ball movement, although the national level will, that's another conversation for another day. We'll put it that way.
Moberg out of the University of Washington, was actually drafted by the Houston Astros once upon a time. Calistri flicks it onward. And a handball. So it appeared, but before that, the offside flag was up. Coming up at halftime. A look around the USL. We'll tell you what's coming up on the USL Game of the Week schedule, highlights and stats. And Kelsey Steele will try her hand at a game of horse against a special guest, who is not Devin Kerr.
I was just going to say, I don't remember getting that invite.
So a throw for Culbertson. Moberg rises to meet it. Dakers, who's been quiet.
What? Seriously? What happened to that fella?
41 minutes in the books. And St. Louis the advantage here. Andrew Brody got tugged from behind.
Joey, come on!
Joey, come up one.
St. Louis last year allowed 48 goals, 13th in the Eastern Conference. They moved to the West this year. Move on from the failed Preki experiment. Bring in Anthony Pulis.
That's better!
Certainly is a bit more defensive-minded in his efforts. 32 goals allowed this year, which coming into the night tied 4th in the West with Real Monarchs. Really defensively sturdy group. St. Louis side. And Hurd brought down by Wall Fall, who never seems to make many friends with opposition during games, does he?
He likes to tangle it up with the best of them. He's another one who was injured at the beginning of the season and through the middle as well. They really struggled for him to find form and gain full match fitness. Good look at his challenge on Josh Hurd as Hurd tries to make his presence felt going forward.
Sam Fink is there. Well, maybe Dakers can get off to the races. The passing numbers right now for St. Louis are putrid, in a word, as Lewis Hilton goes down, and some extra words from Jose Hernandez.
Hilton just reaching for that back left foot. He got his ankle stepped on a tad. You saw his shoe bent back when Jose Hernandez steps in. And this is something that St. Louis is extremely in unfamiliar territory. They are not used to it. Closing in on 74% possession for Real Monarchs. St. Louis has only completed 94, now 95 after that one, total passes. This is a squad that can push it with the best of them. They'll put together 400+ patches in a match. But we talked about at the beginning of this game, that wasn't going to be the case tonight. Real Monarchs, even in their losing efforts, always dictate the tempo. They are the ones who like to do things in their fashion. Very rarely do you see them giving up possession on a regular basis, or another squad having their way with them.
Now Kavita and Hoffman have words.
Where's he taking that now? That ball's moving. Get hold of the
To be
game.
frank, and this is only the third time these teams have ever met, I don't think they like each other very much.
Not whatsoever, especially with what's at stake. James and Olave has made it very clear to us that they want that #1 seed. And although they're behind right now, they are playing for it. There's a good look at Kavita and Chandler Hoffman doing battle. Just holding hands, either one, you know.
Portillo, or the back post, easy for Culbertson. Palistri shrugged off by Portillo. Brody. Moberg. And it'll be a throw. Watch highlights from every game of the 2018 season and stay up to date. News from across the USL. The league's official Facebook page is facebook.com/USL Soccer. 1 added minute in this opening half, separating St. Louis from a trip to the locker room with a 1-goal advantage.
Well, we gave the nod to James and Olave and how important it is for them to get the 1 spot, but you can really feel the intensity coming from Anthony Pulis on the sideline tonight. Quite regularly, we've been able to catch some of the acoustics coming off the St. Louis bench, and he's like that when you chat with him. Very intimidating by nature. He's a positive guy, though, really knows his game, and he's definitely learned from the best.
His dad?
Yeah, his dad's got a pretty good record. Very well known within the soccer community, but not just that. I mean, the guys that he's been around in his playing career from a managerial standpoint, and then even coming over to the United States, you know, he's had some good runs of things, and you know, what's it like going inside the mind of his, and he just picks and pulls from both a player's experience as well as the coaches he's been around and things that he likes and how he can influence his own squad.
Well, Anthony Pulis has to be ecstatic at the scoreline right now.
Very, very happy, especially because they're able to get it early on. They've been behind the 8 ball since then, but that's okay. Again, you're not going to get a boatload of opportunities when they present themselves. Try and capitalize on it, but just make sure you stay composed, and that composition defensively we've seen in the past has to continue to be ever present.
So Portillo and the Monarchs really fail to make much of their significant possession and passing advantage. Sun setting over the Rocky Mountains, and few locales better than this one to watch a match. St. Louis stymied on the penalty, not on the rebound. A 1-0 lead after 45.
save by Bell. Stylish, sensational.
Nashville and Tampa Bay, our next USL game of the week, Devin. If you're Tampa Bay, time is ticking. It might have already run out.
There is no gray area. There is no one and done. There is no winning in. You have to win out. That's it. You have to continuously win out to give yourself a chance to get into the playoffs. And if you're Nashville, you have to be very careful. Tread lightly, because NCFC, Penn FC, they are all nipping at your heels. Ottawa Fury and Nikola Popovic has found a way to get back into form after the formation change, switch some tactics up, so they are right there. But Gary Smith has the potential to push these guys into that final 8. We'll see what happens.
So, put really simply, beware. The East is a minefield. St. Louis, a 1-0 lead over Real Monarchs at halftime. Kelsey Steele tried to keep up. Forrest Lasso game of hoops in our USL feature of the week.
How's it going, everyone? USL's Kelsey Steele here with FC Cincinnati defender Forrest Lasso. So we're well aware of what Forrest can do on the pitch, so today we're going to see what he's got on the court. We've got a game of horse going with a few questions in between. So Forrest, you want to get to it?
Let's do it.
Go.
Oh, let's go. Oh, pressure's on. Let's do it.
We got an H, people. So you're rally guy. Favorite part about North Carolina?
Ooh, sweet tea and barbecue.
MJ or LeBron?
Oh, that's like the Pele Messi question.
So there's only one right answer.
I mean, I'm definitely biased. So I'm MJ. We'll go with Bank this time.
Oh, okay, all right.
Oh, we got a letter.
Okay, sweet spot then on the court.
Top of the key. Why
Top
not?
of the key, okay.
Oh, yes.
Whose play would you mirror the most?
Little size difference with Dwayne Wade. He was the reason I started watching the NBA.
Get out of here. What, only 5'6", 5'7" at 16, and now you're pushing 6'7" at 25? What is that like for you?
So being the small guy, I was like the run of the litter growing up. I was always the smallest guy on every team, and then once it started to grow, I would like to say I was more technically sound when I was younger and smaller. And as I kind of grew, I kept the technical part of my game, and then I also realized that I had the physical side. When it comes to the game, it's definitely been a blessing. It's a special tool or trait that not everybody has, obviously.
Killing me.
Needed that.
Being pulled in from that Cincinnati community, what do they do bring to you guys?
Oh man, I've been playing this game since, I don't know, 3 years old. Everybody likes the game, not everybody loves the game, and when you go to Cincinnati, you can tell that there's 40,000 people that love it.
You're roommates with Jimmy. Tell me you've got a good story or two living with him over these last few months.
Oh, we've probably seen it on a few goal celebrations, but he's got absolutely no rhythm. He's probably going to hate that I told the world this, but he's, when it comes to dancing, this guy's pretty fun to watch.
No, that's short. Ah! Give it to the champ.
That was fun.
That'll do it for us today, Forrest. Thanks for coming along and bearing the heat with us. For now, that'll do it from Tampa.
Oh, that was a valiant effort, but in the end, Forrest Lasso showing off his athleticism, and Jimmy McLaughlin, as we found out, cannot dance. It's 1-0 St. Louis. Wallfall did the dancing in the 9th minute, cashed in on a penalty. That was saved. It's 1-0. Let's take a look at some news and notes, Devin, from around the league. We know Jimmy Nielsen is back. He twice took OKC to the Western Conference Final. He's going to lead Hartford Athletic. Richmond Kickers going to Division III next year as a founding member. And to be frank, it's an organization that's been around for a really long time, and this might be the right place for them to maintain their historic footprint in this country.
Since 1993, one of the longest tenured clubs in American soccer, so it's great for them to continue their history on. They're going to do a great job. Rochester is going to join them as well. And how about Orange County? A massive comeback. 2-1 OKC in the dying moments of the game. 6 minutes of extra time, and Braden Cloutier and his boys find a way to find 2 goals in the 4th and 5th minute to come out 3-2 on top.
Let's take a look at the USL team of the week, and we've got a nice mix of left coast and right coast. How about Lance Lang in the middle, though? What an incredible run of form he's been on. They're calling it the Lang effect on Twitter.
3 games, 3 goals, 3 assists, and he had his way with Phoenix Rising this past week. They did such a good job shutting down Rick Shantz and company, and Hedrick in the back line did a good job as well. Conrado Forbes has been doing very good things for the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, and Bob Lilly thought they might be able to escape FC Cincinnati, but that wasn't the case. Deco Kanon and Adi had other ideas to maintain that streak.
And so that's a look at who's impressed in the USL and, well, what's upcoming for USL. Captain Hoffman and this Real Monarchs side hoping that their offense can cash in a little bit more on what's been a dominant possession and passing half. Show you first half highlights, get you ready for the second half when we come back. Welcome back to the USL Game of the Week on ESPN3. Zions Bank Stadium in Harriman, Utah. Gorgeous evening in the Rocky Mountains, joined by Devin Kerr, Mike Watts alongside. St. Louis a 1-0 advantage over the Monarchs, and let's take a look how it all went down in the first 45 minutes. And really, Real Monarchs were on their heels a little bit in the opening 10 minutes. St. Louis playing their best ball early, ball over the top. Wall-Fall couldn't connect. 5th minute, the defensive woes that have been set pieces for the Real Monarchs decide to boil over. Khalisri finding Wall-Fall and then near post run. The back line of Kalen Wright and Conrad Plewa have to do a much better job. And this was controversial for Real Monarchs at first, but upon further review, 100% a penalty. Plewa just pushing back, takes him down, up steps Wall-Fall. Great save by Leaker, but the reaction from his squad wasn't as good. Fall able to step up, convert. Turns out that Leaker's a bit of a penalty-saving savant, but it won't save him here. Wall-Fall is 5th of the year. It comes in the 9th minute of play. And how about this for a start for the 9th place team in the Western Conference? A 1-0 advantage over a conference power. But that's where Monarchs really began to get a feel for the game. This Chang to Hoffman. They started going to their bread and butter. Good ball in right to the top of the box, just outside White. 22nd minute, and that's basically what they continue to do. They were pushing numbers, pushing the envelope. This time you see Andrew Brody getting in. This is where controversy steps into play. Sam Fake steps up, pulls Hoffman to the ground. Referee does not point to the spot. There was a boatload of yelling from the sideline. Here's a better look. You see that left arm tucked in behind. The only thing that you could say here from the referee's standpoint is that he cannot see that. The turn itself is good from Hoffman, but there's nothing in the focal point from the referee itself and his vision viewpoint. So here's what everything looks like statistically at halftime. 74-26, the possession. The Monarchs expected that advantage. They haven't quite capitalized on it.
284 passes for the home squad, only 100 for St. Louis. But that's okay. We knew that's what was going to happen for St. Louis at the top of the broadcast. If you're St. Louis, you sit back, you be patient. If you're Real Monarchs, although you've started to gain some momentum in this match, you're becoming a bit predictable in your actions. Now, you want to go with what you know, but at the same point in time, showcase some of that crap we've seen in the past in the final third.
We'll look at the upcoming schedules for these sides. Let's begin with Real Monarchs. They are away that vaunted Los Angeles trip. They'll go away to Orange County, which is really one of those vaunted 6-point games, right? Number 1 and number 2 right now in the West. It only would mean more if they were to fall tonight and fail to move above Orange County back into the number 1 spot. And then Galaxy 2, a very winnable game before coming home for a couple. Colorado Springs and OKC Energy. On the other side, this is where things get a little more interesting for St. Louis. Devin, at Swope Park, home against San Antonio. Those are teams right above them in the table, and they can reach up and grab them.
And except for OKC Energy, which tonight's game really could be the accurate representation of what it's going to be, everybody else in Tulsa, they're chasing them. They are trying to get some points out of this. OKC Energy nipping on the heels, but it might be too little too late for Energy FC.
So Gomez hasn't been tested too much. Think a big reason why. Ryden and this Monarch defense not beaten in the run of play. It's only been through that penalty conceded by Plua. Masta Kasher has come on, and Josh Hurd has retreated to the bench. The only change for either side at halftime.
We saw more out of Andrew Brody on the left side in his activity than we did from Josh Hurd. Definitely expect better out of Hurd and have seen much nicer performances from him in the past, but he'll take a seat. Let Kasher step in.
So Kasher comes on for the Monarchs, a well-known goal-scoring commodity. And the Monarchs will start with the ball at their feet, as it so often was in the first half. Ryden steering upfield. And back to Ryden again. Kasher, 3 very early goals this year, and really since then hasn't been able to find the same kind of goal-scoring acumen that made him a bit of a cult hero in Colorado Springs.
Don't gamble wide too early.
Culbertson would really like a ball.
It's overrated.
He's incredulous about it. They're looking for a little more consistency out of Culbertson. We've been told he's an accomplished left back, and he's been one of the really impressive players in this run of injury misery for St. Louis this year.
It's kind of that defensive-offensive substitution you alluded to earlier, where he was primarily being employed on the left side of the midfield for Anthony Pulis for an extended period of time because of all those injuries. But again, just kind of made himself aware to everyone. He learned a lot, and now stepping back into that left-back role alongside Sam Fink.
Monarchs on the move, slid aside by a wall fall, the goal scorer back in the 9th. Well, Tikwa has this bounce right back to him. He lays it up the right-hand side. Calistri for Greg. It's out of his reach. And Greg turning on the Jets, getting all the way to the byline and sending it back across over Leaker. Contact, no whistle. Somehow, that ball had stayed in play in the first place. Now Portillo the other way.
What is Jake Leaker doing coming all the way down the line like that? There was no reason for him to pressure whatsoever. It was more risk than reward in that situation because he did get drawn out. Lucky that his back line is so impressive, and they were able to track back and support and lock things down in the middle of the field. Could have easily been picked off.
Ball sliced over to Chang. Chang cutting it across. The shot is on and in. Hernandez. Less than 3 minutes out of halftime. Hernandez, first goal of the year. All knotted up in the 48th.
We said the Monarchs had become too predictable in their actions. but not to shy away from what they do best. So why not? A 30-yard ball to spread things out across the pitch. Chang collects it, takes one touch, finds the trailing run of Jose Hernandez, just gifts it on a platter, and Hernandez finds the back of the net to get the home squad even. This is exactly what you want coming out of halftime if you're James and Olave. Good response from your boys. It's great ball movement and just back and forth type stuff. They are not thwarted whatsoever. You can see all the confidence right in the front of their minds. They are ready to go.
2 goals last year for the Monarchs. This is first of 2018. And we're back on level terms. Chang. Monarchs have a way of scoring like an avalanche. Ball for Hernandez. Comes out to wall fall.
Kadeem! Go on, drive!
Dakers. Lost it for a moment. Gets by Moberg. Dakers deflects away off of Plua.
Charlie, hey, hey! Jose, atrás, Jose!
You know, honestly, I find Anthony Pulis a bit refreshing.
Why are you giving every single decision to them?
Part of that being as Moberg continues to argue with everybody in his general vicinity. A guy who says, we don't believe in going on the road and let's go find a point. He doesn't care for that methodology. He wants to win every game. And I know that sounds obvious to some. It's really not in this game, in this league. A lot of teams go to Salt Lake City and go, if we can get 1 point, we're going to be really happy.
And be lucky or escape with a 1-0 loss. Sometimes it gets into game management where what can we do for goal differential coming down the stretch if it comes to that. But Anthony Pulis, make no mistake about it, he wants 3 points every single time his team steps on the pitch. And like you said, Mike, that's not the case with a lot of managers. They will manage their schedule and try and find a way to best represent where they can capitalize on opportunities. Coming here is not usually one of them.
You and I have spoken to Anthony a lot. He finally conceded. He is looking at the schedule now. Greg all the way across. It's by Dakers and Dequa. Moberg went sliding through. It's a throw for the Monarchs. Looking at that schedule because, well, it's tough to rotate these bodies through and only a handful of games left. Close quarters here.
Good stuff by Greg. As Dequa and Dakers trailing, just cannot connect. Moberg coming in your picture just at the end. Has no problem throwing some of his weight around to let everybody know he's trailing just a bit, but he's still there.
Go on!
Moberg. This will be with Real Monarchs. Moberg will toss in to the feet of Leaker. Goodness, he lost it. I'm not sure who to blame there.
I mean, the goalkeeper has to do better, but there's no reason for him to throw the ball 35 yards when he's got Kyle Gregg standing halfway in between. Bring that up the touchline, extend the possession battle towards the middle of the field, or even throw a little quick one to Plua.
Come on, ref! Jesus, man.
Header up from Fanuel Kavita. Kavita on it again. Dakers throws his foot in. Dakers arriving onside. Dakers crossing, Fink, diving, Hilton collects and shoots. Up and over, Hernandez did get a piece of that. It's going to be a corner. And Hernandez, the goal scorer, yeah, he's down.
And he catches this one right across the face. And at the end of it, you'll see Sam Fink trailing into the picture, tries to challenge. And then right as the ball here, Lewis Hilton, boom, just catches a piece of the wrist to Hernandez. But he makes the save. That could have easily ended up in the back of the net. Nice deflection, goes over the end line.
Does look like he was bleeding a little bit out the nose. Hernandez out of UCLA, a homegrown deal in 2016. Was a former Pac-12 Rookie of the Year. Has Lewis Hilton waiting to take his corner.
Good opportunity for Jameson Olave to gather his troops and just kind of comp things a bit after their goal. You would have expected Real Monarchs to continue to kind of control this game. That hasn't been the case. We've seen one other opportunity in the final third for them. But St. Louis has proven to be a good sparring partner on the other side of the pitch. Good ball in from Kyle Gregg, Albert Dequa, and Kadeem Dakers were trailing. And then just the effort now from Lewis Hilton at the top of the box.
Well, as WNBA champion Sue Bird might say, when the nose starts bleeding, it'll stop when it feels like it. Hilton serving to the back post.
Get him back on. Can we get him back on?
She just did an article for the Players Tribune saying, yeah, I broke my nose, and it wouldn't stop. I'm not, somewhere along the line, Devin, I'm assuming you've gone through this.
I've actually never broken my nose.
It looks pristine for what it's worth.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Many a bloody nose, never broken.
Ball across, looking for Dakers. Well, that nearly made the reel.
You could hear Anthony Pulis in the background on the mic right now, just expressing his feelings to the broadcast, exactly how he felt about the chance. It's good movement by Kadeem Dakers, though, drifting all the way around the back post.
Stay up to date. All the best from social media around the USL. Watch Off the Post with Kelsey Steele every Friday evening on USL's many social media channels. She hung in there with Forrest Lasso longer than I thought.
Give her credit.
Yeah, a lot. Because Forrest Lasso is one of those guys that could decide tomorrow that he's going to play tiddlywinks and he's going to be great at it. It's irrelevant. you name the sport, and he'll go down the wire with you. Cincinnati right now, I think, is a one hand on one trophy, trying to put a hand on the other as they look down the stretch of their final USL season. They certainly look like a regular season champion. Still a ways to go before they can lock that up. But the #1 seed in the East has dominated years past in the USL Cup playoffs. Rochester, New York, and Louisville last 3 years. Going back to the 2014 title by Sacramento, the last time a team out west has taken the trophy home at the end of the night. Flag is up here on Dequa.
Some teams, well, not some teams, most teams are just trying to clinch a playoff berth. They've already done that and bettered it one more. They've clinched a home playoff game. So well ahead of the pack right now. And they've been beyond impressive in this 17-match unbeaten streak. If they win out, it's a big if, because they've got a rough run in. If they win out, they can top the, I believe it was 2013 Richmond Kickers, who had 22-match unbeaten streak, and that would be the 23rd for FC Cincinnati, which would be best for USL overall in the record books.
Attack on here. Ball finds Chang! Tomas Gomez up to the challenge.
Yeah, Monarchs play quick. Teasing ball movement. Cashier just making it outside. Michael Chang in supporting role. A lot of times he's the distributor in those situations.
Chang coming to the ball. Bounces off of Adams. Englishman reversing as far as Brody.
Shoulders low! Shoulders low!
Adams rotating out to Chang. And Chang sends service. This shot flies wide from Hernandez, who returned from his previous bloody nose with a plug in there to slow that bleeding down.
It worked the first time. Why not a second? Chang again, just outside the penalty mark, trying to find the trailing run of Jose Hernandez. That exact combination knotted things up in the 48th minute. Trying to find their second of the night. Real Monarchs grabbing a stranglehold on this match, but still seeking their second goal.
Here comes Chang again. Crossfield ball, picks it out. Couple juggles from Kasher. And back to St. Louis. That's Kasher. Remarkable kind of run through this league. Incredible talent. Surprisingly released by Colorado Springs in February. 3 years now in USL. Born Algerian, moved to Montreal with their academy through 2015. One of the FC Montreal guys before that organization decided to change their dynamic relation to a USL. And as Portillo flies away. Adams comes sprinting forward. Good step by Culbertson. And now Dakers. Game's opened up a hair. Just past the hour mark. It's the speed of Dequa. Dequa one-on-one. Got a step, got the shot away. Leaker dives and steers it aside. Oh, Plua fell down for just a second, and Dequa pulled the trigger.
It's textbook goalkeeping, though. Plua goes to ground. Jake Leaker has feet underneath him, but not exactly sure as to whether or not he can maintain possession of the ball. Just uses both hands, pushes it to the side. Good stuff from the goalie.
I've really enjoyed Jake Leaker tonight. Trialist that really showed well for the team. They've really taken a liking to him in Salt Lake. Of course, they've got the best goalkeeper in Major League Soccer history still with RSL and Nick Raimondo. As Austin Martz will check on. And Kadeem Dakers comes off.
Not enough behind Kadeem Dakers in his shift this evening. He'll be happy that he was able to keep things quiet in the first half, challenging Josh Hurd and Andrew Brody. Again, most of the attack run, or I should say has run, through the right side for the Real Monarchs and Michael Chang. Did see some stuff from Andrew Brody, but very quiet from Josh Hurd, so credit there.
Calistri and Adams got tangled up. Devin, say how you feel.
I'm trying to be very polite to the referee this evening. It's just been too inconsistent. The managers would agree for sure. It has definitely had an impact on the game. Things have been tidied up a touch in the second half, but you're letting bruising tackles fly all over the pitch and then a tiny little tug in the middle of the field and blows the whistle, goes the other direction. You can say whatever you want. Just call it even. If you're going to let them play, let them play.
Well, Hernandez playing up this right-hand wing, puts on the brakes on Culbertson. Hernandez has found an inkling. Nobody home. Cross field checking back. This is Moberg. Plua misses Moberg. USL Game of the Week on ESPN3 with Devin Kerr, Mike Watts. Our team led by Abe Aponte, Gage Tillotson, Jose Bueso. A 1-1 affair through 63.5 minutes. Goal in the 9th off a failed penalty. Wall Fall converts the rebound for St. Louis. And the Monarchs 3 minutes into the second half. Jose Hernandez from Michael Chang in the run of play. Portillo, a little pirouette. Get an inside look, life on and off the field from a player's perspective every Wednesday evening, the latest edition from the pitch on USLsoccer.com. From the pitch, including Tomas Gomez and the podcast with Austin Martz and Jake Fennelson. There's a lot to like. Chang has been maybe the most dynamic attacker from this right-hand side. Portillo. Hamilton Olave called it. Game against RGV, the second half unacceptable, set a totally different mentality. The second half, they fell against the Toros. Attack is on here through Brody off of Fink. Game that ended up finishing 2-1 to RGV with Quintanilla. Todd Wharton scoring in the final 20 minutes, trying to avoid a 4th consecutive defeat.
Quintanilla off the corner from the far side, and then Todd Wharton from about 23, 24 yards out, beating the back post of Jake Leaker. And it was weird the way the play went down on the free kick. Todd Wharton steps up, and I mean, he definitely serves it in, and it's dangerous. If he strikes it, it's a gray area of how well he hits it because the ball bounces about 7 yards out, takes a wicked bounce on him.
Chang misfires for Hoffman.
And just slowly drifts inside the far post, and Leaker is sheltered a bit from his view, so it's difficult for him to really follow the ball the entire direction. Speaking of which, Hoffman trying to follow this one into the back of the net. Good challenge by Kavita.
You don't want to undersell the rest of the Monarchs, but if they are to win a championship this year, there's a school of thought that leads to it'll be on his coattails. Martz, ball hangs up a little bit. Moberg plays it away from Martz.
How sweet would it be for Hoffman on the way out the door as well?
That's a good way to get a little buzz in Birmingham on your way. It's a little weird in maybe American culture, but it really isn't overseas. The idea that you're going to leave at the end of a season, that you already have plans lined up for your next deal. He's already announced he's going to be joining Jay Heaps in that organization down in Birmingham. Ball shifted through. Greg! Well, a minimum, that looked interesting.
Not bad from St. Louis, but this ball has to be in earlier, and it has to be into the feet of Lewis Hilton. You can see the trailing run there. Kyle Gregg just drifting at the end. A piece of it comes off Conrad Plua. Good shift over by the center back. We've seen Kalen riding out of position quite a few times so far.
Well, we saw Corey Herzog up and about on the bench a moment ago, and here comes the most unique hairdo in the league at the present moment. Replaces Kyle Gregg. Hernandez. Moberg collides with Culbertson. It stays the Monarchs. Moberg, clever little back heel. Adams. This is with St. Louis. You think about what's asked of Herzog and Dequan and Cox and Gregg, and you go down the list of the forwards that St. Louis has to offer. Anthony Pulis will always say before they talk about what a good goal scorer that someone is or isn't, that they are our first line of defense. And, well, it sort of rains down through the organization, that expectation. Adams. If you're going to play compact like this, you need that forward to be defending back here.
100%. And the topic of that conversation really started about a third of the way through the season, and we were discussing with him not necessarily what's wrong with Kyle Gregg, but why hasn't he been as prolific as you'd like him to be on the offensive side of the ball. And he said, listen, you know, for Kyle, it's going to come. That's where the comment of when he's at top form could be the best in the USL from a striking perspective. But people don't realize how much he does for us off the ball and on the defensive side of things. And it really does start from this organization right up top in that number 9 spot, and their ability to just continuously either A, press in the manner in which they do, which comes and goes throughout the matches. Anthony Pulis definitely likes to wax and wane in those situations, but then also step back, and they'll sit right at the top of the circle and just usher the ball left and right, back and forth. How many times in the first half did we see that, where the Monarchs were just shifting passes, trading blows, but all they were really doing was working in a 30-yard span back and forth across the pitch. They weren't moving forward.
Chang. Fink does a good job setting this line, along with Kavita. Denies Chang's service in the end. Monarchs might be the best passing team in the league at their best. Ton of dynamic options and very much soccer the way it's meant to be played. I think a lot of people would argue. Excellent little cut by for Kesher. And that was Brody. Now Kesher is charging after this. Appeals for a throw, won't get it.
Definitely hard to argue that point. Although a few fans in Midwestern state might have something to say about that with the Swope Park Rangers.
Yeah.
Different in their tactics. They
right.
play much more direct, but still like to move the ball and get a lot of touches on it. In their game on Sunday versus Las Vegas, they put together something like 580 passes together.
We hear coaches describe 500 passes being a Premier League pass number. A good Premier League team on a good day give you minimum 500 passes.
And yet Pep Guardiola in Manchester City can put together 8.
Right.
It's child's play for them. They put together 500 in the warm-up.
Yeah. Good touch by Martz. And it's on the wrong side of Herzog. Moberg, good creative defending.
You could hear the call from Corey Herzog as well. He said, Austin, touch and go. He wanted that ball out in space so that Corey could go in one-on-one. Unfortunately, Martz tried to set himself up, and then the two of them challenging for the same.
Second ball. Protect. Well done. And again, I'll spin.
Martz and Herzog seem to have a nice connection at the moment. A win for St. Louis. They move into 7th place in the Western Conference Be a battle all the way to the end for a side that have never made the playoffs, have tried a bunch of different approaches to it over the last 3 years, and feel like they've got a plan in place right now. And Anthony Pule is saying we're not naive enough to think that we've faced all the adversity we're going to see. There's still 6 games left, but the obvious question coming into this week, have you guys weathered the storm? It looks like they have for the most part. And that the improvement in form, it's not coinciding with anything other than simply everyone getting healthy enough to push that form. And I feel like the competition in practice has been better too.
That's the biggest thing for them. It's, you know, what if they could have stayed healthy this entire season? And I'm sure a lot of teams could have it. But again, you're looking at 4, 5, 6 guys at a time that would easily be involved in the starting 11, not around whatsoever, not even training because of the injuries that they suffered. That's so difficult for a manager to deal with. The task just kind of being thrown to the wolves just a third of the way through this season. And that message really continued for them for quite some time, an 8 to 10 game span where they were just trying to find a way to get through it, find a point or 3 points here and there. And they did. They weathered the storm. They've come out not necessarily on top, but probably much further along than a lot of people gave them credit for.
The way the West lines up, right now 42 points for St. Louis. Probably need another 7, 8, 9 to give yourself a realistic chance to make the playoffs over these final 6 games. The attack is on for the Monarchs. This ball sliced wide of the post. A curling effort.
Tomas wanted this ball quick to try and grab Austin Martz down the left side. You could hear a couple shouts as well. Cashier cutting inside on that right foot of his, trying to tuck it in the far post. Couldn't do so. Here's a good look. He knows it.
Chang, an assist from here already on the day. Sets up Adams. Did that hit Fink on the hand? It didn't on the deflection. And now St. Louis off to the races. Chipped ahead. The speed of Dequa catches up. Dequa looking and firing that well out. I think every forward on the planet can feel Corey Hertzog's frustration there.
Not only Corey Hertzog, you had Austin Martz trailing at the top of the box as well. It's one of those kind of live and learn type deals. You've seen Real Monarchs do it all night long. Them getting to the byline and then finding the trailing runner. Corey Hertzog was definitely the best bet on the back post. But then Austin Martz coming in support. Not the best decision making from the Cameroonian.
And numbers flowing forward. This ball put onto the right foot of Cashier. Dequa lost it. Pressured from behind by Kalen Ryden, who impressed so much with OKC years past. When you think about this Real organization on the whole, and Utah Royals missing the playoffs but making a big splash in NWSL this year. Laura Harvey, one of the great coaches on the planet right now. Mike Pecky leading RSL to better times. A lot of young players. They've got a top-ranked academy. 14th MLS year for them in 2018. Organization with 15,000 season ticket holders, and well, they've won 106 of their 176 games all time at Rio Tinto. Incredible home field advantage coming into the year. And a very similar one here. Their USL club, Real Monarchs, that the last 2 years has only intensified to the point where they've won 24, lost 2, and drawn 4 these last 2 years in USL at home. injured player down. I'll play to continue for a moment, and in the end, Charlie Adams' injury overcomes all. It's kicked into the bleachers.
He went down quite some time. St. Louis continued possession. Some extracurriculars going on between Corey Herzog and Conrad flew up. James Moberg, shocking, coming over to lend a helping hand between those two.
Charlie Adams, one of the well-respected players in this midfield. A guy that you mentioned, Pep Guardiola in Manchester City. And well, a guy who will watch old press conferences and analysis of great teams. And Adams, a student of the game. Certainly in his genes. His father coaching him as a youth in England. And, well, you think about the midfield right now for Real Monarchs, and Velasquez is still out for this present moment. It's unclear when he'll return. And if Adams is dinged up, well, this 3-game losing streak could be a bit of a problem for them in terms of how they balance their midfield moving forward as they bring in a man on loan from Tampa Bay Rowdies and Jack Blake.
An interesting role for Blake as well. And not that we haven't seen him sitting in that 10 spot, a hybrid of sorts, but he's more used to sitting alongside the likes of Justin Portillo in that holding midfielder role to allow Velasquez to explode going forward. Due to injuries and just depth overall, they've had to move him up there to really try and get things going in a positive direction going forward. Did well last game, but again, snake bitten at the end by RGV.
Leaker just does get this through. And here come Real Monarchs. 81st minute of play. Their longest losing streak since June of 2016, if you can believe it. Most teams undergo this at least once a year. As Hilton goes in, picks up a yellow card. Hilton's 6th of the year and his 29th start.
Just comes in late on Jose Hernandez, who would come back to collect the ball and try and get the attack going. He's done well shifting alongside Portillo. The two of them constantly changing in the back, just floating in and out. It's enabled this attack to get going. Again, Real Monarchs in unfamiliar territory, knotted up at home. Just a 1 tie and the 1 loss this year. Recently to San Antonio FC. Last game at home, and then, as we spoke about early on, their match at the beginning of this year when Las Vegas Lights were at the forefront of everybody's mind and what they were doing in the Western Conference. April 30th, 0-0 draw.
That was the time where I went, man, Vegas is for real. And
how's that working out for you?
It has since crumbled. You and Tyler did an excellent job with the cash drop from the helicopter. I know we've all been fawning over your work. Leaker steers this aside. The pressure really building St. Louis. Forces a turnover on the clearance. I think Fat Joe references Arnold Schwarzenegger. That was top-notch stuff. A lot of rhyming. Bouncing for Culbertson. Moberg, a little header back, and Leaker will control.
You know, rhyming syllables had the making of a novel, didn't it?
Yeah, it sure did. Wall fall, tugged by Chandler Hoffman. Hasn't really found first gear, much less fourth on the night. Martz arriving, but the flag was up against Herzog. Everybody sort of fell asleep there, and Martz was trying to pounce. Cashier striding forward. Calistri in pursuit. Does get a touch to this corner coming for Real Monarchs. Portillo. Been that kind of night. Martz has shown good spark off the bench. Moberg up to the task again. You see the elevation listed there on the left-hand side of your screen, 4,750 feet, 3/4 of a mile up in the air. And St. Louis doesn't really feel like they've lost a step yet.
They've handled it quite well.
Come on, guys, come on.
I'm just about to ask, what's the game management going to be by Anthony Pulis coming down the stretch? Because even though we mentioned he's always looking for 3 points, you do have to give yourself a chance.
Throw in, header steer backwards. Leaker pushed toward the net, kept that out. Not that it would have mattered. Foul called against Sam Fink.
You've got to give yourself a chance to remain relevant here in the Western Conference. And I get it, you want 3, but on the road to get a point at Zions Bank at least keeps you right there. You're right behind Reno, and it gives you an opportunity to go out and get another win if need be, but he is not going to pull back whatsoever. He's going to bring Michael Cox on. Most likely you would expect Albert Dequa to come off based upon the moves he's made so far. He's going to really try and put the throttle down and see if he can get anything and just salvage the 3 points at the death of this match, because he really wants to get back into this playoff picture.
Think back to the Reno game that they felt changed their whole season around, right? They're down 1-0 at halftime, concede with Reno down to 10 men, and in the end it's Sam Fink 3 minutes into stoppage time that think they'll say if they make the playoffs, that saved the season. Chang. Pushing forward Blake.
Austin Marks!
Wall fall.
Austin, go short, give him an option.
Culbertson. Herzog spun off of Portillo. Those two Eastern Conference compatriots a year ago.
Drive, 2v1.
Culbertson.
Come on, get at him.
Martz. Cashier. Ball knocked across. Attack still on here through Cox. Cox lays it off. Culbertson is through. Leaker comes out, swipes at it.
Another opportunity for St. Louis where if you could read the body language of the trailing runs a bit better, this ball could be laid out in front to hit it one time. But still dangerous from the visitors. Cox right here, release there. Takes the hesitancy in front of him, and then you allow Culbertson to come across. Now he still gets a chance off, but if the ball's released just a tad earlier, Culbertson can hit this one time and really get at Jake Leaker.
Ball knocked across, Fink pops it up. Ball for wall fall. And it's a bit of a dangerous challenge for that ball in the air. Bring it back with the side from Salt Lake. 88th minute.
Relax, Jake. Relax, Jake.
Gives you an idea of how the Monarchs staff feels about the way the match is running right now. Asking their goalkeeper to just pull back a touch, asking him to relax and settle things down. St. Louis has definitely had the better run of it the past 5-6 minutes.
Go forward.
With a draw, Reno would have 2 games in hand, but St. Louis would be tied for 7th place.
Don't let him out. Well done, Coxie.
And would sit level with San Antonio above the playoff line on the night if they find a way to get just a point. A point for the Monarchs would move them level with Orange County first in the Western Conference, and their 17 wins would have them above Orange County on the first tiebreaker as Herzog gets popped in the face, and a free kick coming in the 89th going on the 90th minute.
Another guy who's taken one right across the nose. Defender just comes over the back of number 11, Corey Herzog. He's done well up top to hold up play, try and find ways to connive with his teammates. And this is definitely Lewis Hilton in wall fall territory. Now, whoever steps over it is going to have a decision to make. Are they going to try and have a crack at goal from this distance and go after Jake Leaker? Or is it going to be something for one of the big boys, throw something into the box and let a Sam Fink, a fan welcome Vita, or a wall fall around underneath? Corey Herzog now wants to get involved.
Herzog going for goal. He swung it just over the crossbar.
Drop wall. Lewis, drop.
St. Louis scored in the 9th. Real Monarchs, the 48th.
Well done, Rad.
Martz held by Blake. Shouldn't be a ton of stoppage here. 3 minutes added time.
Coxie diagonal. Coxie diag. Second ball, Corey, Joey. Lewis pushing. Second ball.
Put it in the box and the ball's 10 yards back.
Hey. One. All right, you're okay, go on.
This is another one of those late game magical moments on the road for St. Louis. Culbertson bounces over Cox. Fink. And Leaker will come out, make his claim.
Go with Sam. Face the ball.
Salt Lake at Swope Park, St. Louis rather, at Swope Park next on Saturday, and then they host San Antonio, Toyota Stadium. Very difficult to understate the magnitude of that game to St. Louis's playoff hopes. In the end, there may only be room for one above the playoff line. Chang, back post. Gomez goes flying up for it. That was over Hernandez.
Come on, make it back. Come on, make it back.
Would need to be Forrest Lasso size to have a chance at it.
Second ball. Come on.
Or maybe just Matt Miazga sized, as it turns out.
He made that very apparent to the rest of the world last night, didn't he?
That's too easy. Second ball. Come on, Fan. No, you don't drop that there, Sam.
Blake. Chang. Chang cut it across for Hoffman. Here comes Martz. Tries to sneak it by Portillo, misfires. And Moberg. Moberg pushing still, Cox on his backside. Chang. Drops it down, far side, Cashier. Blake!
That was it.
Last bit, come on.
That was it for Jack Blake. No magic for the Englishman, though. Everything we've seen from the Real Monarchs. Very stereotypical, same thing. And not even a different day, just a different moment in the match. But can they regain with just seconds remaining?
Cashier. Won't be this time.
Taxi.
15 seconds here. Gomez has to work quick if they want to have any hope of going all the way here.
Hey! Press his arms again!
Was this all it wrote?
Where? Come on. Get across. Come on.
Jack, keep going, Jack, keep going.
Cox kept it in. Herzog. Martz Kicked out by Plua.
Make it back. Come on, Master.
Very little time left. Referee letting this play out for a moment longer.
Front the near, in front of the near.
Telling
Jack.
Herzog to move. Herzog firing. Bounces out. Portillo clears. And it's full time. It's above the playoff line for St. Louis for the night. A 1-point place where very few have gotten results. And the 3-game losing streak is over for the Monarchs. But only 1 point to show for it. They're tied for first in the West.
Only 1 point in their previous 4 matches. And for St. Louis, unfortunate, you cannot come out with 3, but they've been able to get positive points in 9 of their previous 11. So it's not for Anthony Poulos and the boys, but still relevant in the Western Conference playoff picture.
Wall fall in the 9th. Jose Hernandez in the 48th. We'll show you how it happened and to give you last analysis after this. Jack Blake at full time, off on the sideline. It's a 1-1. Real Monarchs and St. Louis as it stands tonight, number 1 and number 8. The Western Conference, perhaps a playoff preview here with Devin Kerr, Mike Watts at full time. Let's take a look at full time highlights. And St. Louis really played their best football in the first half. In the first 10 minutes, the penalty came in the 9th.
It was very unusual by the back line of Real Monarchs for them to make a mistake like this. Conrad Plua knew it. They point to the spot. Wallfall steps up. Again, great save by Leaker, diving to his left, guesses appropriately, furious with his boys that he couldn't get any assistance on the follow-up. Wallfall says thank you very much, and the visitors were out in front early.
9th minute of play, 5th goal of the year for Wallfall, and Leaker, despite another penalty save, unable to collapse on the rebound. This shouldn't have been a penalty. This was maybe 10 minutes later. Tough to tell, easier to see from behind.
It's the positioning by the referee, and although he's standing in the appropriate spot, that trailing arm right there of Sam Fink on the left side gives the tug to Hoffman. Very difficult for the head referee to see. Easy for a fan or for the head coach to step in and be frustrated with it, but you can understand why the referee got it wrong. The Real Monarchs would come out and take over this match at the start of the second half. How many times did we see this? Chang, Hernandez, thank you very much.
48th minute of play for Hernandez, his first of the year, third with the Monarchs over these last 2 years, and Chang at times dominated the right-hand side of the field.
We said that if they were going to get things done, they needed to change it up a bit. Now, don't get away from what you've been best at, but that's how they got it started. A nice game-changing ball, 35, 40 yards across the pitch. It started with the step up by Kalen Ryden. Portillo goes the other direction. It's 2 touches by Chang, 1 touch by Hernandez. Picture-perfect soccer.
Dequa the other way for St. Louis, who had some decent licks at the end. Leaker, good save.
The stumble right there. Oh, it's not something you see regularly, but again, this is textbook goalkeeping from Leaker. Just pushes it to the side, gives this club an opportunity to find another form.
Really nothing too surprising here in the statistics. This really is true to the game we saw.
100%. A boatload of passes by Real Monarchs, but they're going to do that against anyone. And I said at the top of this, if St. Louis was going to have a chance to get out of here and get points, whether it's a tie or 3, they're going to have to sit back and pick and bide their time, go for the opportunities when they present themselves. They couldn't close out a second one, but they got the early one and they sat back. They were patient. You got to give them credit on the road.
Well, we enjoyed the game of the week. We hope you did too. Here's the upcoming USL game of the week schedule for your consideration. Nashville is in 8th right now in the East. Tampa Bay will lose this game, and you are playing roulette the rest of the way. You practically need to win out if you're the Rowdies to guarantee yourself a spot in the playoffs. Big hole.
100%. No room for mistakes whatsoever. Las Vegas Lights is in that boat as well, although a bit further behind. Their door may have closed. Phoenix Rising looks to try and cement themselves in that top 4. They had a great run of form, but their last game versus San Antonio was abysmal.
And if I had to guess, Atlanta and Nashville are going to have some really big games in years to come. We'll see an edition of that budding rivalry in the USL Game of the Week, September the 26th. So the sun would set in Salt Lake City, and Real Monarchs able to get a come-from-behind draw. Their 3-game losing streak is over, and they're back in first place. St. Louis, a point on the road. They can't get 3, but they are above the playoff line. For producer Aponte Abe, director Tillotson Engage, Pueso Jose, and Kurt Devin, Watts Michael Raymond saying thanks for watching. Finishes 1-1. Good night.
This copyrighted telecast of the United Soccer League may not be retransmitted, rebroadcast, or reproduced without the express written consent of the United Soccer League.